Good evening, and welcome to this week's episode of Tuesday Night Talks, where I talk about a topic. Now, you may or may not have noticed that this week's locale is slightly different than the usual backdrop. That's because I'm coming to you from the very, very beautiful of Mount Lassen, Mount Lassen volcano. Right? I'm out in the forest. I've touched grass. Right? And I'm out here for, one, because I'm camping and I quite enjoy the great outdoors, but two, because I'd like to use this opportunity to talk about a maybe not as prominent of a debate as I will lead you to believe, but a very important debate. Now, this debate is about preservation versus conservation, right? What do those two things mean? All right. In relation to the great outdoors, right? Preservation means letting the wild spaces be, right? Leaving them as they are and preserving them, right? As opposed to conservation. Conservation is, using the natural spaces for recreation, right? Allowing humans to go through and do things and enjoy them, right? We are very fortunate here in the United States of America to have the world's first national park system and, in my very humble American opinion, the best national park system in the world. And this is, in fact, a national forest that I'm staying in. So I'd like to thank John Muir for this, right? John Muir was one of the, he was the guy, actually, to push for a national park system. He went throughout the western United States and saw immense beauty, right? He wrote a book, actually, about his travels up through Alaska, but he traveled all out through the Rockies, throughout the Sierra Nevadas and such. And he petitioned the government for a national park system. And he most definitely got his way. That's why I'm sitting here today. The building behind me here, I'm sitting on the wall, but this building here is a museum that wasn't originally a museum, but it is currently a museum dedicated to some guy named Loomis. I don't know, he was the local steward of the area, right? And I think that's very important, because I'm going to start by talking about conservation, right? Conservation has been the culture in the American outdoors since John Muir, really. Before him, it was logging and exploitation, which is, I guess, the third option in this debate. But I'm not going to give that any credit, because exploitation is terrible. The amount of old-growth forest that we have is like 3% or something of what it was 200 years ago. It's terrible. So I'm going to exclude that, and I'm going to first talk about conservation. Conservation is a mindset, like I said earlier, where natural spaces are to be used, right? What does that mean? That means lakes are open to boating, to fishing, everything's open to, things like camping, hiking, dirt biking, equestrian activities, horseback riding, gotta keep the ing theme. But the idea of conservation is that, I should have quoted this earlier, but this land was made for you and me. John Muir saw the redwood forest. He saw the Gulf Stream waters. He saw the all above him, the great big skyway. Down below him, the Golden Valley, right? And he realized that this land was made for you and me. And he thought that it ought to be enjoyed, right? And there we have the national park system, where, so many hundreds of thousands of, probably millions of acres of natural habitat is open for the for public use, right? And Oh, I should probably say what my stake in this is. Obviously, I'm out here camping right now, but earlier today I went fishing. I did not catch anything because it was a salmon lake, because there were salmon in the lake, and I didn't bring fly stuff. I was bringing angler stuff, so I caught diddly squat. But I'm also a very avid hiker. I enjoy mountain biking. I love backpacking. I'm an avid hunter as well, and all of these things are made possible through the conservation mindset. Now, I'd like to bring up really what inspired me to make this week's episode on this topic is Oregon's IP28. Right, this was it was a petition to create a bill. Well, I'm not quite sure if it is a bill. Obviously, it didn't make it onto the ballot. But about 2 months ago, they were passing around this petition, right, that includes an explicit ban on hunting, fishing, trapping. Those are the main things I'm going to focus on, but they also ban things like artificial insemination of animals, farm animals, which is a bit odd. I mean, I guess it was marketed as an animal cruelty thing, but I would like to kind of pick apart this because I take big issue at the idea of banning hunting, fishing, and trapping, right? Obviously, Native Americans have been doing those things for thousands of years, long before the white man ever showed up on this continent. But this bill is obviously against animal cruelty, which I support. I do not support animal cruelty. I support, minimizing animal cruelty. I'm a vegetarian. Just kind of throw that in there as a fun fact. But there's another way that they were selling this bill, and it was from the guise of preservation, right? The main issue that I take, one of the main issues that I take with preservation is it's a bit hypocritical. What do I mean by that? I mean that if you want to preserve a natural environment, that's incredibly hard, right? To keep people out, right? If you, just fence it off, say nobody goes there ever, who's going to go there? Well, no one, of course. No one's going to go there, right? Because we said no. We stopped people from going there. No, the only people who will go to these places that are off limits are people who have nefarious intentions, right? If you ban something, the only people who are going to have that thing or be doing that thing are the people who have nefarious intentions, right? With that said thing, right? That's just the way it goes. That's a kind of a rule of thumb, I'd suppose. And so if you explicitly outlaw people from going into these natural places, right? If they are protected, meaning no trespassing at all, the only people who are going to be there are trespassers, and they're going to be having nefarious intentions. Does that have better lighting? No, not really. I'm keeping the hat on then. Okay, what else? Another gripe that I have is if you explicitly ban people from doing that, one, you're going to be there's going to be less people, but the people who will be there will be doing more harm. But also, you're cutting off a big stream of revenue, because preserving anything takes a lot of money. Preservation takes a lot more money than conservation. Why is that? Because conservation pays for itself, right? If you need to, maintain, let's say, a national forest, right? What do you need to do? You need to do preventative logging for, to brush clearing to prevent wildfires. You need to, make sure there's no landslides. You need all these sorts of recovery efforts, and there's a good chance that this habitat was, set askew by mankind 100 or 200 years ago. Whether it be because we decided to, remove all the wolves because we thought that would be a good idea. Shout out Yellowstone. Or because we introduced an invasive species, or because we decided to cut down all the redwood trees, or something of that sort. Right? So you need to restore it to its former glory, and then you need to maintain it. But if you open that place up to recreation, right? If you, set aside a small portion of a national forest, for camping, right? You pave some sections off the road. There you go, campsites. How much am I paying? I believe it's $26 a night. Where I'm camping. That's not a lot, but there's a lot of campsites, and that's a good source of revenue, right? Things like trail permits, things like do I have it here? Yes. Hunting and fishing licenses. All these sorts of things that enable people to do recreation in these wild spaces always end up back in that environment, right? I'm paying to use this environment, and I'm paying to keep it maintained, to keep it beautiful. I'm very much losing daylight, but that's why it's called Tuesday Night Talks, right? Not Tuesday morning. One, because it doesn't roll off the tongue as much, but it becomes a self-perpetuating, a positive feedback loop, right? The more people who use a wild space, the more funds get put into it, and then the better you can make it, right? I mean, obviously, that's the business model for all businesses, right? The more people, people who buy your product, the better you can make your product, right? Or the more of your product that you can make. But it makes it more accessible, right? And another thing with preservation, this is what my third gripe with preservation, the preservation mindset, is that these things are meant to be enjoyed. This land was made for you and me, and I'll be damned if I don't enjoy being in the outdoors. This fresh air is amazing. I'm at like 6,000 foot elevation. Air is so crisp. Whew, boy, right? If I wasn't able to experience this, if the only wild spaces were private lands, that would be terrible, right? The value of this land is, it's really, you can't put a number on it, right? I'm really losing daylight, holy cow. I didn't think of bringing a light, did I? Oh wait, yes I did. I got an itty bitty flashlight. Here we go. There we go. Nope, it's not hitting my face. There we go. Haha. It's just like the original backdrop. Yeah, okay. I've said a lot of bad things about preservation. Now I'm going to say one good thing. Now, is this related? Somewhat. I am a very big proponent of preservation when it comes to archaeology. I'm studying to become an anthropologist. I am going to be focusing on linguistics, right? Human language evolution and how that shapes our worldview. But another branch of anthropology is archaeology. Archaeology is what Indiana Jones supposedly does. That's where he goes and digs up sites. Well, he's more or less a grave robber. That's beyond the point. I'm a big proponent of preservation in regards to archaeology. Now, there are a lot of archaeological sites that have been discovered, but not excavated, right? You might say, well, how do you discover something but not excavate it? Are you not going to study it? Well, no, what they're doing is they discover a site, and instead of, just removing all the dirt, unburying it, right? And then exposing it to the elements, to vandals, to, an environment that was probably way different, or is probably way different than what it used to be, right? Instead, what a lot of teams are doing now is they're doing ground-penetrating sonar, right? They're sending down their sound waves, and then they can get an image of it so that they know what they can cordon off, and then they stop. They're waiting for when they'll be able to excavate it in the future. They will excavate it and study it, but they'll do so when they have better methods of preservation, hopefully, right? I am, of course, conservation of archaeological sites is a great idea, right? I enjoy being able to walk through these, these ancient sites, these, and experience these for myself. But I also understand that nature can reclaim itself, right? Life always finds a way. These forests will regrow, the river keeps flowing, right? The glacier will, will recede, and it will encroach, and, the animals will migrate like they always do. But the archaeological site, that city that was built thousands of years ago, will never be rebuilt, right? So I think that's an important bit of the preservation versus conservation thing, is that if these natural spaces are damaged, they will always regrow. Hold on, I gotta fix my light here. They will always come back, right? Maybe not in the same exact capacity. That's really not doing much. But they will regrow, as opposed to archaeological sites, right? So, correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but so far that's a 3-1 in favor of conservation. And I think, looking back on the past few episodes, I've started to end these things on a go do this, like a homework bit. So this week's homework bit is touch grass. More or less. Go out and, if you have a fourth grader in your life, the national parks have a thing for fourth graders where I think you get in for free. If there's a senior in your life, they have half off discounts for like most things. You get a card for that. Your local watershed, your municipal water, whatnot. They often control a lot of land, local land, and a lot of them offer trail permits. Get your hunting and fishing license, right? Even if you don't use it, it's like $60. It's low-key pricey now. But go out for a hike, go out for a bike ride, go exploring, go touch grass, right? Enjoy these natural spaces, because although they will grow back, they will not always be here. They will never be like they are today, right? Climate change, pollution, deforestation, all these sorts of things are threatening our wild spaces. And through conservation, the only way that you can protect them is to go out and use them, right? Your city, your county, your state, this nation, they all have parks. Go out and enjoy nature, right? I don't want to sound depressive and say before it's gone, but go out and enjoy nature, because this land was made for you and me. Thank you for watching. Good night.